There's a lot of confusion about net carb versus total carb. Like, can you lose weight doing either one? Is one better than the other? I know for myself, I did my entire weight loss journey net carb. And still to today, I use net carb. Whenever you hear me give numbers of how many carbs I eat, I'm talking net. So does it really matter? To answer this question, I want you to think about two people who have a broken arm in the hospital. Does it mean that they're going to have the exact same treatment? Not necessarily. If one of them has a hairline fracture while the other person has a complete break, gosh, I hope Pat doesn't make too much of an image there, but will they get the same treatment? Very likely no. The level of damage that you have from sugar consumption is going to vary from person to person. And that's because the way that we eat is different from household to household. Take my house, for example. Growing up, my mom wasn't about junk food. She made breakfast, lunch, and supper for us from scratch. Now, we did have rice, potatoes, pasta, bread in our meals, but we didn't do dessert. That wasn't a thing in our house. We had a few snacks around that were for occasional treats, not daily consumption. So actually, the amount of sugar that we ate as kids was less than the amounts of sugar that I ate later in my life. Now, as time went by, my parents did eventually get influenced by the Canadian culture. And so occasionally they would let us have fast food. But my freedom really came from being a teenager and having money and being able to go to the store and buy some of the treats that weren't actually in the house. So my big downfall was how much chocolate I was buying. If we dig a little deeper, I already had damage from eating rice, pasta, potatoes, bread on almost every meal. But adding daily chocolate to the story from the age of 15 to 22, 23, that ramped up what was happening in me in a really, the pain that I started to live by age 22. Ridiculous. My body was reacting to all this sugar that I was eating. I didn't know that's what was happening. In all fairness, I was overeating my sugar and then turning around and blaming sports that I barely did for the pain that I was living every day. My knees, my back, eventually my elbow, I was in pain more than I would say I was relaxed and comfortable. We need to pay attention to how food is impacting our body. So coming back to, should I do net carb or should I do total carb? Whether or not you do net carb or total carb as a way to manage your sugar isn't necessarily the important starting point. What's most important is understanding to pay attention to how your body is reacting to what you're eating. If I fast forward to 23 years later, when I was 46 and started to do keto, I didn't know there was a difference between net carb and total carb. I did what the calculator on my phone told me to do, which was net carb. And I lost the weight and I solved my inflammation issues and my body recovered. Today, although I still use net carb, because I only eat healthy vegetables, because I rarely go back past 10 grams of carb per day, because I'm focused on my body feeling good, I'm still able to do net carb and I haven't had a reason to change that. That being said, I love the way that Dr. Westman puts this information, because what he says is net carb is like over-the-counter medication versus total carb is like prescription strength. And why I love that is that it focuses on how much damage are you trying to overcome. We understand that if I'm taking the prescription strength, that means that the damage internal is more than if I can take something over the counter. The more internal damage I have, the more likely it is that I will need prescription strength. With all of that being said, with my knowledge of how much damage that I had, I still had success on net carb. But, and this is the big but, I also adjusted myself down to even lower carb because my focus is get healthy, stay healthy. I want to add one more thing. If you eliminate processed foods, junk food, high glycemic vegetables, and pay attention to how the foods you are eating make you feel, you're naturally going to find your carb count. And what I mean by this is, in fact, if I eat carbs on just regularly what I notice is that at 18 grams or more, I can't manage. So 18 net or more, I can't manage. Like, that's my actual barrier at that point. Now, what that turns out to be total, I don't know. I've never actually checked. But for the veg that I eat, I would have to put that in the calculator and see what it is. But I know that if I'm eating my typical veg, which my veg are very low carb, when I hit around 18, so I get 18 and a half, my body starts to feel it. This is why I've decided to keep myself at 10 or less, because I'm not interested in pushing the envelope. I'm not interested to see how much veg can I get on my plate. I want to eat healthy food that builds my body properly and fuels my body well. Wellness Warrior, I'm encouraging you to aim at optimal health rather than trying to ride the edge of how much carbohydrate can I get on my plate? How much fun food can I have? It's not worth it. Building your healthy body is going to take you 7 to 10 years, because that's how long it takes to completely rebuild one of these, right? So what you need to think about is the body that you are walking around in today is based on the food that you ate in the last 10 years. Can you honestly say that in the last 10 years, everything that you ate was healthy? Or was there a lot of junk in there? Put it in the comments. Where do you stand on that? Going forward, do you want your body to be built on healthy food or junk food that's leaving holes in your health? Most of us allow those junk foods because we don't have time. We're in a rush. We're busy. I don't have time to cook. You always have time to prioritize your health. Even if prioritizing my health means I just don't eat today. Better for me not to eat than to eat something junky that's putting a hole in my health. The goal is to choose healthy protein, healthy fat to build and fuel you. The carbohydrates are just for fun. If you want to know how to eat healthy keto, lose weight, and feel amazing, check out this playlist right there. I'm going to meet you over there.